Hello bookworms, I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be giving you 5 reasons why you should read Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World by Ashley Herring Blake. This is an LGBT middle grade book about 12-year-old Ivy Aberdeen who loves drawing and spends her days filling her notebooks with pictures that she can't show anyone because they are depicting 2 girls holding hands. After a tornado displaces Ivy and her family, Ivy's notebook goes missing, and soon her pictures begin turning up in her locker at school with anonymous notes urging her to talk to someone about her identity. Ivy also begins developing feelings for a classmate named June and finds herself secretly hoping that the notes are from her. This book is all kinds of cute and sweet. Reason number 1 to read this book is that it's a really wonderful coming-of-age story about a girl really discovering and coming to terms with the fact that she likes girls. We get very real dialogue about Ivy questioning why she doesn't get crushes on boys like the rest of her friends, and through discussions with other characters, Ivy learns more about herself and discovers that she really does like girls and not boys, and becomes more comfortable with this part of herself. This book also has a really beautiful passage about Ivy realizing that even though she likes girls, this aspect of her personality does not define her, and that there are other things that make up her personality, like the fact that she's an artist and a sister and a friend, and I just think that that's really wonderful. Reason number 2 to read this book is that it has great representation. Aside from Ivy, there are 2 other characters of various ages that identify as lesbians. The main one being Robin, who is the owner of the bed and breakfast that Ivy's family finds themselves staying at. Robin is known throughout the town to exclusively date women and is actually engaged to be married, so Ivy gets to have some amazing discussions with Robin about Robin's identity and how she came to discover this part about herself. Robin helps Ivy so much because Ivy's able to ask Robin questions without fear of being judged, which led to quite possibly the best passage explaining coming out that I've ever read. I literally had chills when I was reading this section of the book, you guys, because of how powerful that this is. We have to remember that this is a middle grade book. This is not a YA book. So just thinking of other, 12, 13-year-old girls picking up this book and realizing that they might identify with Ivy was so powerful to me. I could not believe what I was reading. I also think that it was really important to have the different ages of representation. We had Ivy, who is 12 years old and who is kind of questioning and coming to terms with this part of herself. We have another character that is in her teenage years that has known this about herself but was keeping it a secret. And then we have Robin, who is in her 30s and is out and engaged and is still a productive member of society. So I think that having those 3 different points of representation is also really important for a middle grade book to have, because it gives readers a broad range of what liking girls can look like. Reason number 3 is really a reason of why I adore middle grade books in general. It just happens to also apply to this book, and that is that middle grade books often have different themes that run throughout the course of the book and end up tying the different characters together. So, for example, while Ivy's main struggle is that she's coming to terms with the fact that she's getting crushes on girls, Ivy is carrying around this notebook full of secret drawings, and over the course of the book, she finds out that there are other people in her life who are carrying secrets along with them as well. And I just think that that is such a powerful realization to have, especially in a book like this, because it makes Ivy and it makes the reader really feel like they're not alone and that maybe other people have secrets. Specifically to this book, there's also a theme of being resilient. After the tornado rips through the town, Ivy's school wants to hold an art show that showcases students' work being resilient in their town. So as you uncover all the different characters' secrets, you learn that they themselves are resilient in having overcome these situations or going through these situations. I just really love how middle grade books can take different themes like this and run with it through the entire course of the book, and it ends up connecting the characters together, which is something that you don't often see in YA books. Reason number 4 for me has to be Ivy's support system. While Ivy is dealing with a secret that she's holding onto, it's really causing her to feel not only displaced from the tornado, but also displaced in her own life. She's the middle child. She has an older sister and twin baby brothers. She doesn't really know where she fits in the family. She's kind of the black sheep. She doesn't know where she fits in her friend group, and she literally doesn't have anywhere to call home. So she's dealing with a lot of upheaval in her life, and you really see that through the relationships that she has with her family, because she doesn't feel like she fits in. And it's hard to see Ivy going through this from her perspective because you're only seeing her perspective, even though Robin and other characters in the book are reminding her throughout the book that she is loved. Ivy isn't seeing that until the very end. And at the end, you really see that Ivy's family loves her so much, and they care about her so much and support her, and she has so many supportive friends and family. And I think that especially in a queer middle grade book, that is so important, because while that might not be the case for everyone, it's important to showcase this in middle grade because the target audience is so young, that showing characters with a support system, I believe, will give young readers that identify with these characters and who are questioning their sexuality more reason to feel like they're not alone, and that they have people in their life and they can be feeling these feelings, and that it's okay, and that they do have supportive people in their life. And it might not end up being their family, maybe it's their friends, maybe they're going to have a chosen family, but there is always someone in your life that will support you even if you haven't found them yet. And we don't always get a very strong family and friend relationship in YA books, so I always like when we see that present in a middle grade book. And the last reason that I think that you should read this book is because of the writing. Ashley Herring Blake does an amazing job of handling these sensitive topics so beautifully. A lot of times when I'm reading a middle grade book, I often feel talked down to, which is understandable because I'm obviously not the target audience for this book. I do have to say that even with all of these different passages explaining things that I already knew, I found it to be very powerful, and even though the language that Ashley Herring Blake was using was age appropriate for the target audience, I didn't feel like I was being talked to like a child, if that makes sense. The characters all felt really relatable, and I genuinely felt like I was reading about real people. I was engrossed in the story from start to finish, which I love. And without going into spoilers, I really enjoyed how realistic the ending was. Even though my heart would have hoped for a different ending, I think it was important to show in a middle grade book that even though Ivy is having these feelings and that other characters in the book have similar feelings, not everyone feels the same way as Ivy does, and that's okay. Not everyone is going to like you back, especially when it's your first crush. Like, it's just a hard time to go through in your life, and I think that Ashley Herring Blake handled all of the feelings and emotions and the roller coaster that is having a first crush so beautifully and so realistically. It really turned out to be such a sweet ending that focused more on friendship and family and having supportive people in your life. It was so good, you guys. I love this book. I know I've essentially just gushed about Ivy Aberdeen's Letter to the World, but I didn't realize how important the story would be and how much I needed the story until I read it. Even starting out with the dedication in the beginning of the book, usually it says to a family member or friend or children, but Ashley Herring Blake dedicated this book to herself. And I just think that that was so beautiful. It was such a wonderful way to start out the story. And I think that being an older reader and seeing that dedication, it made it even more impactful to me, because this really is a story that I wish I would have had when I was younger. So having queer middle grade books is so important to have that representation, because even though we're getting it in YA books, you know, it just hits a little bit different when you're reading about a 12-year-old that's going through it. And it's just cute, and it's sweet, and it was so wholesome, and I loved it so much, you guys. And basically, I just think that everyone should read this book because it's an important story, it's a sweet story, and it's just wonderful. It is just wonderful. I loved it. So those are my 5 reasons why I think that you should read Ivy Aberdeen's A Letter to the World. I gave this book 5 out of 5 stars. It is so fantastic, and I hope you guys pick it up and agree. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next time.